The next question is about jobs. Can an Aspie make a good manager? Do you know of successful stories? I was only diagnosed a year after a difficult job and 4 years of contracts, many of which were not renewed. Are there any good apps available for social skills? I don't catch some sarcasm, and I still miss interpreting some body language. I also have minor eye contact irregularities. I cannot understand stress, and I want to know how to work issues out when people are bored. I also have had some difficulty with a crying employee. I do have gallons of determination because I love my field and I can talk endlessly about it, but I must be a supervisor to get paid decently. So, can an Aspie make a good manager? This is from Socratina at Autism Hangout.
The answer is yes. The issue is motivation and learning. Clearly, this person is highly motivated, but it's learning. There are a couple of good books that I would recommend. The first that came out is by Malcolm Johnson, and it's entitled Managing with Asperger's Syndrome. And he became a manager with the knowledge of his own Aspergeristics and goes through strategies that may help. Another one is by Ashley Stanford, and it's called Business for Aspies. And that may also help, both of which are published by Jessica Kingsley Publishers. Explain to people that the interpersonals are not your strength, and to say, how can I help you, or what to do? This person talks about somebody who's crying, for example, and in that situation, all they may need is compassionate listening, not necessarily someone to fix the problem or what to do. So be honest, explain to people that the interpersonals are not your strength, what can I do to help you? But also to have advice or a mentor who's a colleague, a partner, or family member that you can talk to about that problem, and they may be able to give you advice. So yes, you can be a successful manager, but you're going to need information, knowledge, and advice.
Very good. This next question, Dr. T, is for you. What would you have liked to have added or written differently in your book, A Complete Guide to Asperger's Syndrome? 2 things that stand out to me. The first is, black and white isn't emphasized enough. For example, some people keep a special interest very private and personal. Personally, I don't go on about them and never have, unless someone shows an interest and then they get the dissertation. The other is, people with Asperger's syndrome in childhood may outgrow them in adulthood. This is from Oliver Stieber at YouTube.
Another interesting question. And I had to think about that. What would I add to the book? And one day, hopefully, I will write another one. I would put more on sleep issues, because I'm finding that is a major problem. More on sexuality. We had the question about gender identity and so on, but also intimacy in relationships. I'd also explore more on the sense of self, who am I, and self-acceptance. Obviously, girls and women, because we know a lot more about that. But also the aging process and Asperger's syndrome. How do the signs change over time in the last decade of life? I think that would be an important area for further study. Now, to the original question. Some people with a special interest, it can be very private and personal. What this person has described is they've acquired the ability to determine or not. That's great. He is, Oliver, able to appreciate the perspective of others and so, shall we say, compensate for the Aspie features. I would also add to the book, which is the other part of this question, that about 15% of those who have a diagnosis in childhood move into what I call the subclinical level. And this is, if I can indulge for a moment on a particular expression, why the British have understood Asperger's syndrome more than any other nation, because it explains many British characteristics. It explains train spotters, Oxford and Cambridge University, and the British aristocracy. You see, in any other country, if you collect and display toilet brushes through the ages, you're referred for psychoanalysis for being anally fixated, whereas the British make a documentary about you with the BBC and you appear on the Antiques Roadshow. So many people say, what's the ultimate successful outcome? They become British.
That's really good. Okay. Our son is now 18, and we're having a very hard time convincing him that the time to move to the next level is now. He spends most of his time online gaming, chatting, and talking to friends all over the country. He works 2 evenings a week, he sleeps during the day, and he hardly eats. How can we help him move forward? This is Frank at Autism Hangout.
Okay, first, it's the closure of school, and there's a whole new life of an adult ahead of him. And he hasn't got the clear structure or purpose that he had at school. On the one hand, he's wanting at 18 to be independent. On the other is he's fed with things that he enjoys in that freedom of not going to school. Getting him on to the next level, employment is so important for those with Asperger's syndrome, not only for structure of the day, a sense of self-worth and income and so on. Now, he spends a lot of time online, gaming, chatting, talking to friends. First of all, when you're on the internet in a social game or chat room, your Asperger's syndrome isn't recognized. And this will be very appealing for him. And as far as he's concerned, I have social contact, but I don't have to worry about personal hygiene or reading facial expressions, etc. Now, he works 2 evenings a week, which is good, but that's not enough, and sleeps during the day and hardly eats. Now, one thing that can happen in Asperger's is, in adolescence, a switching of the day-night cycle. Mm-hmm. And these are part of the sleep issues, that he's very nocturnal. He's a night owl, and that may be the time when his body says you are at your most able to learn, concentrate, etc., at the opposite of what you're expected to do. So he may need to go to a sleep clinic to see if they can recalibrate the sleep system. Now, helping him move forward is through his interests and his peers, and he's got to feel success. I do feel for the family in that sense, but the way out may not be through them, but through his interest. So he gets out and about, perhaps a job involved in the interest.
The next question is about group homes. Do you know of any successful group homes and why they work? We're part of a group home design team here in Minnesota, and we're looking for successful group homes to study and model. This is Anonymous at Autism Hangout.
Okay, my group home. A person with Asperger's is an individual. And the concept of a group home and group living can be actually quite fearsome. So it's not a question of how independent you are, it's whether I'll get on with the other people. Will they give me my own sanctuary, my sense of isolation, etc.? So what I would tend to suggest is self-contained, single-person accommodation with a supervisor or monitor to check that that person's going okay. So that they've got their own kitchen facilities, bedroom facilities. They are very much self-contained. It's their own unit. And they can then socialize with others when they want to, but they have their sanctuary and territory to return to. So not group homes, self-contained, single-person accommodation with a warden or somebody who can support.